places because they kind of spoke to my heart. I've seen the need because my daughter would come home every day telling me about things that happen at school or her friends or different things. And so I observed in the workplace different things about young women that I would speak to and things that they were struggling with. So it became a passion of mine to want to speak to them because I remember being young and not having someone that was there and available to speak to me and speak to my heart. I became a mom at 15 years old and people threw me away. And so people always told me, you're never going to be anything. You're never going to be nothing. You're not anything. And so I wanted to go back to those people that were me. And I wanted to tell them, I wanted to rewrite over their hearts what people had wrote over mine and tell them, you're going to be something. You are everything. You are beautiful. You are magnificent. And so that is the reason why I created the program, The Women of Valor, because I wanted to go back into those communities to remind those women that they are something, that they are worthy of being everything, no matter what people tell them. And you're not discounted because you have a child young or you come from a bad background like I did or anything like that. And so I wanted them to have a picture of someone that they could look at that didn't look like anything that she had been through. And so that's what made me create what I created. That's a little bit about where I'm from and my organization that I have, and what led me to being who I am, because I didn't want people to feel alone anymore. I wanted to let everybody know I felt like God made me Ruth, and He said, "Hey, don't leave anybody behind," because Ruth didn't leave Naomi and what she was going through, and I didn't want to leave any woman and let them know that what they were going through. And through my process, when God was giving me the vision that He gave me, He was saying to me that, all of the things that we bore as women, it was like a birthing process, to say, have the baby, because we are designed as women to hold things. And so I felt like I wanted to be able to tell us, as we go through our pregnancy, to be able to go through this process of having our babies, to let some of the things that we go, to push that baby on out, to push it on out, because that's what the process was for me. It was like I had to push that baby out for me. Some of the barriers that I faced during the whole process, feeling isolated, because people will make you feel like you're going crazy. Like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? What do you got going on? Your friends will make you feel crazy when you tell them stuff like, girl, I'm going to help these people. Help what people for what? What reason? And so I want to remind people that when God gives you something, don't let people whisper anything else to you. Remind yourself that if God gave it to you, get it on through. Keep pressing on through, because if God gave it through to you, He's going to give you every tool that you need to make sure that you get it through. Because I promise, the moment that I stepped into the purpose that God gave me, it was like the world just gravitated towards what I needed. People started coming out of different places to say, I can help you, I'll do this, I can do this, and it was nothing of me, it was all of God. So I just want to tell you that don't let people whisper anything to you that's different what God said about you and the purpose that God said to you. If He gave you a vision, just remember that He's going to give you all the tools necessary to make sure that you can carry out what He gave to you. Sometimes in that process, you'll feel like you're not moving. You'll feel like you're stuck. And I just want to remind you that if you feel stuck in that moment, just remember that, to me, it's a butterfly. My name means butterfly. That's why you see me with a butterfly, because God makes miracles in tight places. So I just want to remind you that if you feel stuck when you're going through your vision, God can make a miracle in a tight place. Just remember the butterfly. That's a little bitty tiny place for God to bring out something so beautiful. So when you're going through your process and you get in a moment of saying, God, I don't feel like I'm moving, I don't feel like this is you, just remember that butterfly is not moving in that little place, but God is still moving. God is still working. Everything is still moving, and everything is still working. So don't see yourself at the end and not in the middle, right where you're at. Fear is another thing that will hold you back from what you are supposed to be doing. Because I promise you, I felt like, who wants to hear what you got to say? That's what the enemy whispered to me. Nobody wants to hear what you got to say. Your voice is not important. But I promise you that once I started to speak, people started to listen. And I was like, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe, what I have to say is important, because people always tell me, girl, you know you talking about and I used to be like, well, maybe I do. And so I started to realize the reason why I was talking a lot is because God gave me that voice and he wanted me to use it for him. And that I just had to be strategic in how I use it and not be talking a lot, but just be purposeful in my talking. And so make sure that when I was talking, I just wasn't just talking and babbling, that I was actually being effective for God. People don't understand you either. And so I just want to say that their understanding ain't meant for them to understand what God told you. And so when they don't understand you, don't worry about it, because it's not meant for them, because God can give it to them. If it was meant for them to have it, he would have gave it to them. So don't worry about people's lack of understanding of what God gives to you, and be careful who you talk to about it, because they'll talk you up out of it. So I just want to say that don't talk to everybody about it, because they will talk you up out of it, and sometimes you got to keep that thing to yourself until it starts to happen. Trust your voice too, because sometimes we don't know how to trust ourselves, because there's something in us that'll tell us that we're not doing it, we can't do it, that we're not capable because of what we've been through or something that somebody's told us in our childhood. And so we'll start to hear our own selves or talk us up out of it. Trust your voice, trust your word, trust your thoughts, because those are God just reaffirming things for you, telling you, I got you here, friend. I'm here. Just look to me, lean on me, trust in me, and you're going to get through it. Another thing I want to talk about is to not compare, because your process ain't the same as everybody else's process, and sometimes we can get so caught up in comparing ourselves to somebody else, we lose sight of what we're supposed to be doing, because we're thinking, oh, you know, such and such made it. They're doing so much better. If you were supposed to be there, you would be there. So just know that if you were supposed to be in that position, you'll be there. Celebrate that person and where they're at and what they have going on. That's what I just want to say. Because comparison is the thief of joy. You don't want nobody stealing your joy. Don't rob God of the opportunity to bless you because you don't know how to celebrate somebody else.
All right.
I want you to celebrate yourself in your small victories during your process as well, knowing that even though you hadn't made it completely to where you're going, celebrate where you come from. Celebrate, you know what? I did this today. I accomplished this today, because that'll help you encourage yourself to get to where you're going from. So celebrate your small victories. Have those little parties, like I call them my little workshops, and call, hey girl, hey. So that's what I tell myself in my mind. Hey girl, hey, you did that. You did that. So we gotta know how to encourage ourselves in the process as well. Encourage yourself. Tell yourself you did that. You did a good job. There's nothing wrong with doing that and telling yourself it. You know, reaffirming yourself, telling yourself that was good. I did that. And be consistent, because you can't wake up and be, you know, one day being consistent. God trusts. He wants consistency. He wants to know where your heart is. He's always looking to see where our heart is. So be consistent in what you're doing. And so wake up every day knowing, and also be careful of why you're doing it. Because I come to find people ain't always doing stuff for the right reasons. their heart ain't in the right place. So make sure your heart is in the right place and be consistent in your process. And be of service to others. This is my big, huge thing. I love to serve people because I feel like Jesus served, so why can't we serve? Anytime somebody calls me, I will serve. Be a servant. I find great joy in serving others. Do it just because. When somebody calls me or reaches out to me, I clean up, sweep behind the curtain. I don't need to be in the forefront because to me, God promotes you in private. He'll promote you in public what you do in private. So just remember to always serve others in your process because even though you hadn't made it to where you're going yet, you're serving, God sees you. He sees everything you're doing. So please be a servant first before you even think about being a leader. The best leaders are the best servants. I also believe that also allows you, because submission is the invitation for someone else to lead. So being submissive to other people allows you the invitation for God to make you a leader. So just be a good servant. And also know that in darkness, God does his best work, because being planted doesn't mean dead all the time. It means that you're planted. Under does not mean dead, it means planted. Make sure you're watering though, and you're planted. When you're planted, make sure you're watering. Make sure you're tending to yourself while you're planted. Water yourself. Make sure you're doing that because tending to yourself, making sure you get enough rest. Make sure you're taking time to yourself, making sure you're seeing about yourself, because a lot of times we don't see about ourselves and what we're doing. We do everything and we don't take a moment to actually rest. So make sure while you're going through your vision that you're actually, while you're planting, you're watering your seed. So to make sure that your seed comes out with healthy fruit. Get rid of your unrealistic expectations. Expectations create frustration. So just get rid of your unrealistic expectations. I feel like adversity will birth opportunities. So if you, while you're in a process, and being in adversity will create opportunities for you, because sometimes what looks like a bad situation isn't. So while you're in that situation, just know that, like I said, God sees you. God sees you. And you got to be ready at any moment. Let me tell you, I got my high heels in the car. Because anytime somebody calls me, I'm ready to go. You got to be ready. I got my bag, my high heels in the car. People always tell me, Vanessa, you overdo. And I say I overdo because when I was out in the world, when I used to go to the club, I had my stuff ready. I was ready. I showed up ready. I was first in the line, ready. I said last to leave, ready. That's how I work now. First to show up, last to leave. Be ready at all times, because you never know what's going to come up and what's going to show up. So you got to be ready at all times for any opportunity that may show up for you. And don't be afraid to rewrite your story, because sometimes what we think was supposed to happen don't happen. Story. So, like I said, I was a mom at 15. My son, he had a son early as well. I remember he was supposed to graduate in 2015, and I was devastated because he didn't graduate. He didn't graduate high school, so I was feeling in my feelings. I was like, I went through all this stuff for you to graduate. I was a mom, and I took all these classes and stuff, and I was sitting in front of the Civic Center crying my eyes out. I don't know why, but that just made me feel good at that time, so I was just crying my eyes out. And it was like God said, do you do everything that I tell you to do all the time? And I was like, oh, well, no, not really. And it was just a moment for me to realize that, that was what I expected to him to do. So I had to rewrite my whole story. Because my story for me was that I was going to go finish high school, go into the military, and I was going to have this fantastic military career as an officer. but I had to rewrite my story as because I had to add that I was a mom young. And then I had to do it even over again because their dad passed away when he was 30, and so then I had to do it again. But don't be afraid to rewrite your story, because sometimes we got to go back and say, okay, redo, let's start all over. So just know that it's okay to have to redo and replan and revise. I mean, when I first started even going to school, I was going for criminal justice because that's just what my passion was. But then I was like, I don't really like, the criminal peoples anymore. I just want to go to do business. And so I changed it. And so just know that changes are necessary sometimes in your process, and then it's okay to have to do it. So just know that changes, I switch stuff up all the time. Lipstick is my favorite one. I got 1,000 of them, and I like to mix them too. So just so y'all know, mixology is real. So that's just know that you can change things up and be fun. Have fun. Like, life is about having fun and enjoyment. That's one thing that you will always catch me laughing, always catch me smiling, because life is about just switching things up, like on the fly, whenever you have to. So just remember, you can switch things up. There's nothing wrong with that. And don't be afraid to share your story. We get so stuck up sometimes and so religious that we feel like, oh my gosh, if I tell this little part of me, they're going to feel some kind of way. They might feel some kind of way, but it needs to be told. There's so much healing in telling your story. There's so much power in telling your story. Don't be afraid to tell your story in the right environment. You got to be sure it's in the right environment. And then don't be afraid to be judged, because sometimes we're so judgy of one another that we get so caught up on the fact that we're going to be judged, we don't want to share, because you don't know who's ear hustling on the back end, who may need to hear that, you know what, she suffered, abuse, but she survived. She went through child abuse, but she survived. She went through drug abuse, but she survived. She went through this stuff with her family, but she survived. Some people need to know that we're survivors, so you need to share your stories. Don't be afraid to share your story. Stop holding all this stuff in, so stuffy in church, and people come in with this facade, and then we looking, trying to get, there's other people coming in, trying to get healed, and we are holding back on what we've been through, even on our visions, because there's something that you might be able to reveal to somebody else, and she can connect. Our stories are connected to each other. Our purposes are connected to each other. And you don't know what you don't know until you start sharing, because you don't know who can help you. So be a sharer. Share your story. You don't know the healing it's going to provide for you, and you don't know the healing it's going to provide for someone else. So that's so important to me. Hold yourself accountable for your actions. Hold yourself accountable for your process, and hold yourself accountable for what you didn't do. Because so many times we want to blame things on somebody else, and it's not nobody else's fault. We know we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So hold yourself accountable, but also have an accountability partner. Because when you have an accountability person, that person can come to you and be like, hey, what you did this week? What did you accomplish this week? They also motivate you and encourage you, but you got to be able to hold yourself accountable to and tell yourself what you did and you didn't do. So that's something that you need to be able to, and be gentle with ourselves. How many times are we so forgiving of other people, but we come to ourselves and we so hard on ourselves? We so, Teresa, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And then you come to yourself, Vanessa, you so ugly. You got fat this week. You ain't go to the gym. And we don't treat ourselves with the same kindness that we treat other people. So we got to learn to be gentle with ourselves, because we are so much more harder on ourselves than other people. Be kind to yourself just as kind as you are to someone else. So know how to be kind to yourself. And surround yourself with like-minded people. I'm telling you, you got to know how to change your friend's zip code. I mean, you got to know how to tell yourself it's time to move. Because sometimes people will hold you back. I say all the time, I tell my friends, I'm sorry, I love you, but sis, I had to pack my bags up and move to another area because he's holding me back, and it ain't got nothing to do with you. But I had to move to another zip code because I know that God is in this area, and he's coming down a blessing block, and he's coming placing a blessing in my mailbox, and I got to make sure I get that blessing. But over here, I got some stuff going on that I ain't know that y'all got going on that I can't be a part of. So don't be afraid to change your friends' zip code, because sometimes some of the people that you're around, it ain't got nothing to do with them. It's just that their mindset ain't the same like yours, and you want to make sure you're around like-minded people, because those people will push you further in your life. This is something that I heard that I love, that I want to share, that John Gray said. Your tribe will know your vibe. Your crew understands what you've been through. And your team will share your dream. And I think that's so true, that when you get around people that's like you, they understand you, they support you, and they get you. So, and y'all start to move differently. So be cautious of who you're around and get you a good team. Be yourself, be dedicated, and be flexible. And then also pay attention to what you're focusing on, because that's what you put your energy into. You put your energy into what you're focusing on. So make sure whatever that vision is that you have, that you're putting energy into that and not anything else, because you're going to put the most energy into what you're